I'm Jed Thomas. I'm a professional artist, entrepreneur. I love Godzilla a lot. I love Batman a lot. And definitely I love cars a lot. So that's kind of like fuel my entire life.
Well, I did hear or read the other day that most of us are 8-year-olds walking around in adult bodies.
I'm
So
still that
I
kid.
feel like Godzilla,
I'm
cars,
still that
yeah,
kid.
your passion
Yeah.
is very much alive in you, which is who said it? Picasso said everybody's an artist. Every child is an artist. We just grow up and stomp that creativity right out of us. So how do we keep that childlike wonder and curiosity that fuels what we do and our passions in our lives?
Welcome to another episode of Artful Pods of Wisdom, where creativity meets community and where art reminds us that becoming is just as vital as producing. We recorded today's episode from Element, a modern bistro in the heart of downtown Santa Ana, where art and food meet in bold flavor and conversation. Huge thanks to SAUSD Arts videographer Elben Capule and Ricky from Muse Café for making this space come alive. In this episode, we sit down with artist and entrepreneur Jed Thomas, whose story unfolds like a graphic novel. Part origin story, part rebellion, part redemption arc. What happens when a child told he'll never make it in art dares to dream anyway? What does it take to not just do art, but to live it, breathe it, and build a business from it? If you've ever doubted your worth or struggled to price your passion, stay tuned. This episode will meet you there, so grab your tea, coffee, or favorite beverage, and let's join the conversation.
I'm a big believer in mindset because all my life, since I was a kid, I knew mindset is the pilot of yourself. It's the captain of your ship. Because I'm going to rewind back 20 years ago when I was younger, when I was a kid. So I'm from here, Orange County. I'm from Newport Beach. And then when I was 9, we moved to Australia, me and my family. So I grew up in Australia. I'm an OC kid, grew up in Australia. And I've always liked cars, right? You can tell I love cars. So when I was younger, when I was like about 5 or 6, I used to go for afternoon walk with my grandma, and I used to walk around my neighborhood. I used to point out cars. That's this, whatever. That's a Honda, that's a Mazda. The one that opened me up to the car world, my passion, was Mercedes-Benz. Until today, I love Mercedes-Benz. I've had 9 of Mercedes-Benz in my life. So when I was introduced to Mercedes-Benz, because I was so drawn to it, I remember going home, and my mom asked me, "How was your walk with your grandma?" I said, "Yo, I found a car that I really like, and that will be my very first car." So my mom was like, "Okay, since when you like cars?" Like, "Okay, what is it?" I said, "Mercedes-Benz." And my mom was like, "That thing is so expensive. That's a luxury car." And, as a kid, I don't really understand the concept of money. I'm a kid. And I said, "Okay, and luxury car, okay, expensive, okay, I want it." And I've always grown raised in a family where it's very modest, right? My family always told me, "You don't need cars like that." And then luxury has never been a thing in my whole family because my whole family is very modest, very humble, I guess you could call it. And then after Mercedes-Benz, it opened me up this car world. I become this car nut as a kid at 5 years old. And then the second car that I fell in love with was a Ferrari because of the show Miami Vice. So I was watching I'm a 90s kid. So I watched Miami Vice on reruns, obviously, in TV. And I saw this white Testarossa. Oh my God, I like that. So Mercedes-Benz was my gateway. And now it's Ferrari. So I love Mercedes-Benz. I've been buying a lot of Mercedes-Benz toy car. And now it's like, I'm going to add another one, Ferrari. So I'm going to start buying Ferrari model cars. And I kept telling my parents, I want a Ferrari too. And they kept telling me, like, dude, those cars are so expensive. Like, people cannot buy those things. And I grew up in this life, in a family where they kept telling me that stuff like that is unattainable. And I kept thinking to myself, that is weird, because if these things are unattainable, why do these companies keep pumping out these cars? If no one's going to buy it, no one's going to able to buy it, why do they keep making it? So I already knew something is not right. That's when I knew mindset plays a big role in your life. And the third brand that I got into, because my whole family loved James Bond. I love James Bond. So the very first James Bond I saw as a kid in the 90s was the Living Daylights with all the gadgets. And what car is that? Aston Martin. And I fell in love with Aston Martin. So those kind of like kept leading me into the luxury exotic car world that I fell in love, and I deep-rooted my love and passion in there. And that's gonna shape me in my obsession with cars. And that's when I kind of like unlocked this thing about life. It's like, it's all about your mindset.
So what does it take to rewrite your story? To see yourself not as the problem, but as the artist of your own life. Research from the National Endowment for the Arts highlights that students from low-income backgrounds who are highly engaged in the arts are more likely to graduate, attend college, and be civically engaged. This is the mindset of the artist, not just in brushstrokes or instruments, but in the daily decisions to imagine, reshape, and rebuild. It's a mindset rooted in possibility, not perfection. In a world rapidly redefining itself, where global industries are shifting from routine labor to creative problem solving, this kind of mindset isn't optional. It's essential. Jed's journey starts with a shift from being labeled as the bad kid to discovering a creative path that didn't just change his identity. It helped him thrive. This is where many of our students stand today. In a system that often focuses on compliance over creativity, how might we, as educators, artists, and community members, offer an alternative lens that values expression over perfection?
But I also see, as we're sitting here, you got these two beautiful, super realistic paintings of Porsches.
Porsche and Aston Martin, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. See, I don't know all the cars.
It's okay.
That was, I wasn't raised like that. I do remember the Porsches, but yeah.
Aston Martin, yeah.
The amazing, fancy cars. So how does this all connect to you getting to this state?
So what started my life, aside from cars, was actually Batman. So I grew up really, really tough in my family, in the environment I was. So like I said earlier, when I was 9, we moved to Australia. So I grew up in Australia, high school in Australia. And I came from a very religious Catholic family. So my parents was like, no, Catholic education is the best. You got to go to a Catholic school all your life, right? So, you know, as a kid, I was like, man, this is so strict, you know, strict education. And I wasn't the academic kid either, because I was exposed to rock and roll when I was 6 years old. I have an older brother and a sister. They're the straight-laced, academic, good kids. You know, I was the odd one out, the black sheep of the family. I remember going to Japan when I was 6 years old. I'm half Japanese, so we went to Japan when I was 6. The first thing I did when I went into the hotel was turn on MTV. And on MTV, I discovered Poison.
The rock band.
I discovered Poison.
The rock band.
The rock band.
Not Poison.
Yeah. I discovered Poison, the rock band.
Yeah.
I discovered Bon Jovi. I discovered Motley Crue, and I discovered all these hair bands. It blew my mind. I love the music. I love the image, the long hair, the tattoos, the wild life, the wild side of life. I said, I want to be like that. A 6-year-old into this kind of stuff. And I remember going to the record store after we got back from Japan. We went to the record store. I took my mom to the record store. Back then it was Tower Records. And I said to the guy, hey, do you have that Poison record? It was in the 90s, so Flesh and Blood, because of the song Unskinny Bob. The kid looked at me, this is for you? And I said, yeah. And I looked at my mom, I was like, okay? Like, I was 6 years old, asking for a Poison record. But I always knew I want to be like that. Tattoos, long hair, living that rock star lifestyle. I was a rebellious one, but at the same time, I was bullied at school. And, it's tough. And everybody just don't understand me as a kid. And I remember my brother loves Superman so much. That's his thing. So he bought a Superman figure and a Batman figure, and he used to make them fight. And I guess my brother's the favorite child in the family because he's the smart one, Everybody tends to favor him, and he's like the star child. And I'm the one who got into trouble at school, at home, both. And I got bullied at school, and then when I kind of want to rebel against that, I got in trouble. And I remember going home so upset and depressed, and I was like, I want to be like my brother. Maybe I should be like my brother. So I kind of want to copy my brother, because in my head thinking that maybe if I'm more like my brother, people will like me more, instead of me being bullied and then get in trouble by my parents, by the school. It's just lose-lose situation for me. So I remember asking my brother about Superman, and I want to play with the Superman figure because my brother loves Superman. So maybe I should like Superman. My brother said, no, you can only play with Batman. And at that time, I was around 5 or 6. I thought Batman was the bad guy because he has the sharp, pointy ears. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm the bad guy. Nobody likes me. Not even my brother liked me. My brother gave me his Batman figure. At the time, I didn't know what Batman was. I thought Batman was a villain. So maybe I'm a villain in the family. Maybe I'm the villain in society. So I remember going to grocery shopping with my mom. Back then in the supermarket, you got the comic book section. It's back in the 90s. I love the 90s.
Just a little.
Yeah. Yeah. And I saw a Batman comic book, and I was like, oh, so this is Batman. That was about 6 or 7. And I picked up a Batman comic book, and I looked through it, and I was like, wait a minute, he's a good guy. But he's violent. He's violent. He's a good guy. He's violent, and he's human. I connect with that. He's not some alien like Superman. He's a human being that came from hardship, came from darkness, came from really bad sadness. His life is a tragedy. His parents got killed when he was a kid. No, society don't like him. Society sees him as a bad vigilante. And I connected with that. I connected so much with Batman. It's like, this is me. This is just like me.
And he had a Batmobile.
And he has a Batmobile. Yeah, and
Fancy
Bruce
car.
Wayne loves cars.
Right?
Right. Bruce
It all
Wayne.
connects.
It all connects. Bruce Wayne loves cars. There's a Batmobile. It's a cool, cool car. This is me. It almost it clicks. Jed, this is you. You connect with this character. So, and all of a sudden, goes back to mindset. My mindset changed. It's like, you could be seen as the bad guy, but keep doing good.
There's a moment in every artist's life when they stop creating for approval and start creating to understand themselves. For Jed, that moment came in the shift from doing art for credit to becoming an artist for survival, for healing, for meaning. As he shares, being seen as the bad guy can become a self-fulfilling prophecy until someone hands you a brush, a mic, or a blank page and says, "What do you see?" The arts give people, especially our students, a chance to rewrite the script, shifting the story from what they've been called to what they choose to become. In doing so, they create community not because everyone is the same, but because everyone is seen. I think Dolly Parton may have said it best. Find out who you are and do it on purpose. Not to monetize, not to perform it, but to live it. Whether it's through a comic book, a dance piece, or a quiet act of service, that kind of self-knowing turns creativity into freedom. How often do we give students the chance to see their work not as an assignment, but as a declaration of identity? When school becomes more about standardization than self-discovery, how do we make space for students to shape their own reflection? Let's get back into the conversation.
I'm going to offer.
Yeah.
It's a both and world.
Yeah.
And when we look at it from the school district standpoint,
Yeah.
we have multiple populations. There's the arts exposed kids. So they might do an after school program. They might get exposed to making something. It might spark their curiosity.
Right.
There's the arts enriched kid that's kind of a course of their study but it's not a priority. And they may go on to sing in a choir for the rest of their life, but that isn't necessarily their pursuit as they go to medical school or become a mechanic or whatever they pursue, or even a stay-at-home mom, because we pursue all this college and career, but some people want to stay home and take care and do charity work. And then there's that arts entrenched kid like yourself who's hell-bent on, I'm going to make it.
Right.
So maybe Christian is more about, this is something that fulfills me from an internal, holistic standpoint, where I create because it makes me feel good and feel better inside. And you're like, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a warrior, and I'm going to make money too while I'm doing my passion.
Right.
And I offer that there's a space for all of it.
But the one that kind of like the very, very first splash of thought that came to my mind, you could possibly be a professional artist and make money from your art, was actually Batman. Because when you look at these comic books, you do realize people get paid drawing these pages. So that's when you kind of like, this is interesting. Maybe I could, maybe my first career in art would be Batman. But this is like me as a nine-year-old kid. But I was bullied every single day, all throughout my life, being a foreigner in Australia. They made fun of my accent. But even in my art class, though, it's just a thing that you have to take, like math, like science, or whatever class it is. It's never about, hey, you have to be you know what I mean? You have to be creative or whatever. You don't have to. And they kicked me out 5 times in high school.
Of art class?
Of art class. They told me I was a failure. They told me like you will fail in art. I don't know what you want to do in your life. I see potential. Like, this is what the teacher told me. I see potential in you. Clearly, you have a little bit of a talent, you know how to draw, but you'll never follow the prompts because the homework are boring. You got to draw a bowl of fruit, or you got to draw whatever it is, like still life. They call it still life.
It didn't interest you.
It didn't interest me. So I always just do what I want. I've always been the kid that's like rebellious. Like I said, I just do what I want because my rebellious side came from rock and roll, right? Poison and Motley Crue. And then Batman. I just want to be Batman. Do whatever I want. There goes my,
And so you got bored.
I got bored.
Yeah, and you know what? A lot of kids do. And that's why another reason why we're trying to help rethink how we do the arts in schools and the mindset, because of a lot of our traditional ways of growing up with that we were taught to teach art and other things. It doesn't necessarily meet the need of every child. It's not student-centered.
Right.
Because we needed, instead of drawing a bowl of fruit, what if it might have been a cool still life for you to do a whole bunch of guitars,
Correct.
right? Like all set up.
Correct.
But you had to all sit around a certain setup. I know, I taught art for many years. Sit around a room. Or, I'd go to art classes. But I'm with you. I think we really have to think about what's going to spark and ignite
Right.
the joy.
That's why
and
I
is
love to
it
talk to
drawing
these
skill
kids.
sets?
You know what I mean? Yeah.
When we hear stories like Jed's, we're reminded that talent is only part of the equation. Opportunity, mentorship, and environment shape the rest. According to the Brookings Institution, schools that integrated arts into the curriculum saw an 8% rise in student engagement and a 13% drop in disciplinary incidents. Systems that celebrate creativity create belonging. But what really changes things is the spark. The moment someone sings off key, dances in the hallway, rhymes without a beat, or laughs a little too loud. That spark breaks the script. It disrupts the norm, and in doing so, it gives others permission to be fully themselves. Different, weird, vibrant, and wonderfully human. These moments are not distractions. They are declarations. And when students feel safe enough to take those creative risks, whether submitting a portfolio, joining a performance, or just showing up as themselves, we begin to see that genius lives in courage to be seen.
The emo generation, every single one of us wants to be different. We want to rebel against the norm. That's why we wear our hair a certain way. We wear makeup.
Elben, how are you wearing your hair these days?
We wear makeup.
Well,
You know.
Yeah. Well, and Jed, when you decided at one point, that's it, I'm going to give up on myself and I'm going to be a carbon copy of my own brother. How did that work out for you?
It didn't work out.
Exactly. Because it's not you.
It's not me.
Human.
Yeah. It was expected. You see the difference? It was expected. So that's when I know, it's like, if you are expected by society to be this way or that way, it won't feel comfortable because it's not you. That's why I want to be me. And from the very beginning, I know that I want to be me. You know what I mean? That's why Batman really, really helped me shape who I am. Because that's who you are, dude.
So, but like, how did you pitch yourself to get this kind of work?
Just showing my portfolio.
Okay.
To the right people.
So you had a portfolio.
So again, yes, my portfolio is because I've drawn so much Batman. I've accumulated these portfolios of my Batman work. It's like, damn, okay, you're good.
Yeah.
You get the first job, and then you built your way up, and then.
Because that's what I'd like to see all of our kids.
Yeah.
Create their own portfolios, starting at their earliest stages.
Right.
And then be able to curate their learning experience of all their arts.
Right.
So when they leave, you could walk into Blizzard Entertainment if you have a good portfolio.
Right.
And start as a concept designer making $80,000 a year.
Right.
Without any formal training.
Correct.
If you have a good portfolio.
You have a good portfolio, but you also got to remember your portfolio has to show your passion.
Yes.
I'm not going to walk into these companies with my bowl of fruits and they're gonna hire me to do Batman. You know what I mean? You gotta show your strength in anatomy, your basic. You gotta know how to draw people, right? You gotta figure drawing, anatomy, the three things: figure drawing, anatomy, and perspective. Those are your basics. If you master these three, you can put anything. You can do it. So that's what I did. I mastered my anatomy, I mastered figure drawing, and I mastered perspective. Those are your three ingredients to work at these things, because once you master these three, you can do anything you want. Danny Miki, I've known that name since the 90s, when I was still a kid. Danny Miki used to ink for Spawn, for Image Comics. Mm-hmm. And I first noticed the name Danny Miki when I was in the 90s, when I was still like a kid, you know what I mean? And for the first time I met Danny Miki, I was like, oh, okay, wow. I remember reading these comic books, the books that you worked on, Spawn. And at that time I already told him, I was like, I introduced myself, and because I didn't work in comic books, drawings for merchandise. So he kind of we kind of chatted up at a Comic-Con. It was WonderCon in Anaheim. So he asked me what type of stuff I draw. So I was like, oh, I draw Wolverine and Batman. So I kind of show him a little bit of my portfolio. And he was like, damn, you're good. How come you don't have a table like at Comic-Con. I said, don't you have to be like published in the comic book world to do this? No, you don't. Like you could just pay for a table. At the time it was $200. It was really cheap.
All the misconceptions.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could just do that. And I never knew that. So he was like, you know what? Come around the table. So he brought me around his table. This is the crazy moment. He was with his inking group because these are professionals that's been doing it 20, 30 years longer than I have. These are published artists. He brought me around a table and he hyped me up since day one. He's like, hey, you guys got to watch this kid draw. So I was around the table at a convention. It was the very first time being put on the spotlight. And sure enough, this kid come up wanted a Wolverine drawing done. And Danny Miki said, hey, how about this? How about you draw this guy, Wolverine, and he'll ink it. And Danny would ink it. And I was like, let's watch this kid draw. So the guy, this rando was like, okay. Like, I don't know who Jed is, but I know Danny Miki. So I was like, all right, cool. So everybody was watching me like a hawk. I was sitting there drawing Wolverine, a picture of Wolverine. And everybody was like, dude, you are good. So I started doing conventions in 2016. Little by little, at the time I was doing like maybe 6 a year. Oh no, maybe six or 10 a year to now 33. Touring every month. I just got done with a show. Next week I'm going to Seattle to do a show in Seattle. I do shows all over now.
What kind of conventions?
Comic-Con, anime convention, car shows, tattoo shows, horror convention, you name it.
And see, this is a very critical piece. Is this through networking? Is this because your reputation now precedes you? Are you sought after? Do you have to apply? Like, how do you
just
get into all
apply
these
and you
shows?
just do it. Anybody could just apply and do it, but your product has to be top notch for people wanting to spend like, a lot of money to buy them. You know what I mean? Like, I'm making $17,000 in 3 days at a show.
And what do you do while you're there?
You just sell your artwork. Just sell your prints.
Are you
Sell your prints.
You're not drawing anymore
Well, I am.
while you're at the convention?
Yeah, sometimes I do.
Oh.
People want to walk up commission.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, be like, yeah, sure.
On the spot.
On the spot.
I love that.
On the spot. I could draw right now on the spot if you give me a pen and paper.
So here's the thing too, though. Big question. Pricing your work. How do you determine?
That's easy. That is the easy part.
Okay, because that's a whole thing to a
that's
lot
the
of
easy
artists
part.
and kids out there. We have a lot of
Yeah.
kids who want to learn how to sell their work.
Oh, that's the easy part.
So, how do they? Okay.
All you gotta know is your worth. That's it.
And that's the
That's
easy
the
part.
heavy question.
Wow.
No, that is the
Okay,
easiest.
emo.
That is the easiest.
So, we know that not every student will become a professional artist, but every student deserves the chance to live creatively. Creativity is not just a job skill, it's a life skill. In an AI-driven world, it may be our most human one. Jed's story isn't just about art, it's about agency. It's about being trusted to take up space, to take creative risks, and to imagine a different ending. And maybe it's time we reimagine our own narratives too. Because we were never meant to introduce ourselves only by what we do for a living. In a world that rewards specialization, how do we celebrate the polymaths, the learners who dance between science and sculpture, coding and choreography, activism and art? What if the classroom wasn't a place of narrowing, but of expansion? A place that, like our communities, is no longer siloed. A place where you're not just a student, but a poet, a builder, a beat maker, a thinker. So instead of asking, what will you be? What if we ask, what kind of world do you want to create? And follow that with, how can I help you get there?
Get it phase,
Yeah.
I guess, in a way. But there's always, as an artist, I feel like a little self-doubt.
Yeah.
I know I had, when I
Every
first
artist.
started, I had a huge self-doubt. I liked your moment with Danny Mickey, you said?
Yes.
Where he kind of like encouraged you and like said, yeah, you've got something.
Yeah.
I know for me, I'll give like a quick 30-second story. I finished my degrees because I did what I was supposed to do. I did the Superman route, right?
Yeah.
I did what I was supposed to do.
I see, now I know how that works.
And I feel like a lot of artists, when they get out of school, I know myself included, I was like, okay, I did this, so I should be worth this. I should be. And then whether it was timing or something, I kind of came out as the last recession. Let's not talk about what's going on now. But it was like, we've talked about how music and art can be a luxury to some people.
It is.
And so I was trying to price myself back then. And I knew what I was worth. But people, I don't think I had mentorship where people are like, hey, no matter what, stand by your worth. At that time too, I was kind of like, man, I gotta, no matter what, first things first is I gotta keep a roof over my head. So I'm just giving an example. These aren't my rates now or then, but say I was like, oh, my time is worth $100. And then you go to someone, and I was also this baby-faced kid.
Right.
I'm still kind of this baby-faced kid.
Yeah.
Someone's like, who's this kid charging me $100? Our last piano teacher or last musician or last artist, whatever, was only charging us like $40. And then to me, oh man, and I heard that so many times. So like, what's your, I don't know if there's a remedy or what's your advice to someone that
there is so easy.
Yeah. I have mine too, but like facing that thing.
It's so easy. So I love fashion. I love luxury stuff. And I love cars, like, you know. I learn value and worth from these brands.
Yeah, all
So,
the high-end brands.
On high-end brands. I grew up loving Gucci. I still do. Givenchy, that's my favorite brand. And loving Ferrari and Lamborghini and Aston Martin. One thing that you notice about all these brands, they start off expensive. They've always been expensive since the beginning. Even though they struggle, Aston Martin went bankrupt 7 times.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's
Aston Martin bankrupt 7 times, and they're still going. And they're still goddamn expensive.
So that's here they break down a lot.
Yeah.
So I don't have a lot of extra money to be spending on
So, you know,
maintaining that.
So now
So I'm
going
gonna have a
back.
horse instead.
Yeah, so now going back to art or music or whatever it is, like
arts in general.
Arts in general, it's like number one, you got to know that you're good, right? Number one, you need to know that you're good, because if you're not good, people aren't going to spend that money.
Did it take somebody to tell you were good?
No.
Even though all your life you were told that you were bad?
You know you're good because you see it for yourself. You have to see it for yourself. If I suck at drawing, I'm not gonna lie to myself and say I'm good.
I have a daughter who's living in London. She's in your age range-ish.
Okay.
And she is in that very struggle of, I want to value myself and my brand, and I got to put food on my table. And there's a lot of people out
So there's
there.
a way around it too. You know, everybody has a start. Ferrari had their start. They struggled at one point. They almost went bankrupt. At one point, they losing money. Same thing with, pretty much with every brand. You know, Lamborghini went through it too until Volkswagen bought them out. Every brand has their struggle. Every artists, creative people have their struggle. I had my struggle. But you cannot lose yourself. That's the one thing that I always tell people. You cannot end up pricing yourself down in order to... You end up devaluing yourself, because once you devalue yourself, you cannot go back up. You're not Walmart. You're not Target. You're Lamborghini. You got to look at it that way. Now, how am I going to keep Lamborghini afloat? You may have to do temporary other job.
Might have to do some Target pieces.
You know.
So you can sell your Lamborghinis.
Right. You gotta find what it is that is you. Like, this is Jed Thomas. This is Jed Thomas. If I were to show you my Batman pieces, that's Jed Thomas. If I were to show you my all-time moneymaker, Godzilla pays for my house, for my cars, that's my money maker.
I love that. So do you have prints? How do you do that? Like,
I sell my prints. I sell my prints on canvas, on paper, on flags, but people can also buy the originals, the artist proof or all that. But they're all different price range. You know what I mean? You wanna go crazy, then you go buy
I'm
it.
curious.
Have you ever caught yourself thinking, does what I do even matter? Maybe it was after a long day, a quiet room, or a moment that felt invisible, and you wonder what value you bring. But here's the truth. You do. And what you do does. Every time you listen deeply, offer space for expression, or show up with care, you're shaping something real. Whether you're an educator, an artist, a parent, or a leader, the ripple you create might just be the spark that helps someone else rewrite their story. Sometimes the best part of the journey is when things don't go according to plan. A missed note, a last-minute switch-up, a doodle that turns into a masterpiece. That's the magic, isn't it? Creativity loves a little chaos. So whether you're guiding students through a musical or a mural or just Monday, remember, this work we do, it's messy, it's human, and full of unexpected brilliance. So keeping it weird, keeping it real, and keep showing up.
What I'm hearing as a fellow artist in
Yeah.
a different medium
Yeah.
is to diversify yourself as an
Correct.
artist. Not just in your art form. Like
Yeah.
you're just talking about you do cards, you do comics, you do... I don't know if Godzilla's a comic, sorry.
Well, that's
My
the pop
knowledge-
culture.
Pop culture,
I
right?
do automotive and pop culture.
There we go.
That's literally the two.
So you have that, but then even in how you are making your living is diversified. You have high end, you
Yeah.
have your prints, you have commissions.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes artists, or even maybe not even artists, but like the perception of the public even is like, oh, this artist only sells. I'm talking like high art, like
Yeah.
like they only have $1 million paintings. How do they, like? I know for myself, before I got into the arts world, I was like, how does an artist, obviously if they sell $1 million painting, they have $1 million.
Right.
But like, what if it takes 10 years to sell that $1 million painting?
Correct.
So I'm sure this is for the artists out there in the art form.
Yeah.
Diversify
You need to.
your life.
I could not agree more.
Yeah.
You
Because
need
that's
to.
what my daughter is in the performing arts world with acting. Her level of success, she wants to do the acting part, but also she's a writer, a producer, a director.
Yeah.
She's a lyric. Yeah, she plays instruments. She's releasing her own music. She is has a charity company. Like, there's a lot of ways that she's out there to be able to create a playwright, you know, doing lots of things. And now getting into editing for, I can't remember what it is now. Anyway, so that's how you do it.
You do need
gotta,
to diversify. Absolutely.
Yeah, and have a boatload of pockets that you can pull from, because there are seasons of areas where that one's going to flower, bloom,
correct.
and that one's going to. And what I love about your story too is it seems like you're ever evolving. Elben, all of our stories.
You learn. You never stop learning.
We hope not.
You know.
Yeah, because if you're not learning, you're not living.
You're not living. Correct.
And you're an example of somebody who's living large and wild, fueled by your
passion.
Yes, for Godzilla and cars and rock bands of the 90s. So we appreciate you being with us today to help tell this story, to inspire, uplift, elevate, help give people confidence to pursue their passions.
Correct.
And how that all is a big circle that one fuels the other.
Yeah.
And you don't even know where it began now in a whole way. It kind of seems like it all blurred together in a this informs this, informs this, informs this. It's a beautiful thing.
So where do we see genius? Not in talent alone, but in the courage to keep going when no one believes in you. In the kid who draws Batman instead of a bowl of fruit, perhaps. Or in every student who creates not just art, but a life that reflects who they truly are. As Jed reminded us, knowing your worth is not arrogance, it's survival. In a world of instant answers, arts education asks us to slow down, to get uncomfortable, to trust the process. Maybe the question isn't, what do we want our students to become? Maybe the question is, how do we help them stay who they already are? Thank you for listening to Artful Pods of Wisdom. Until next time, keep creating, keep becoming, and remember, your story, your art, your genius matters. Thanks for joining the conversation.